Welcome to the Antisocial Podcast. My name is Andy, and thank you very much for downloading, streaming, or whatever it took to hear my lovely voice. This episode, I'm going to cut right to the chase, and I'll leave all the dribble and housekeeping to the end. This week's episode is with Joel McDonald. Now, the surname might ring a bell, not from the fast food chain, but Joel's brother Jordan was previously on the podcast, I would say episode 32, 31, 32, 33, something around those numbers. And Joel is a guitar virtuoso. I'll use that word because it was the only word that came to my head then. But Joel's been around the traps in the Sydney scene for quite a number of years. And initially I had met Joel and his brother Jordan through their band Torch Le Monde and playing sort of just straight up rock and roll. Well, not even rock and roll, just like hard rock music, and had sort of associated ourselves in similar circles and been out and had some drinks and whatnot. And I've definitely followed what Joel's been up to over the last few years, and I've been amazed at some of the opportunities that he's had. And we spend a bit of time talking about some of those opportunities that he has had and the current ones that he's involved with at the moment. In February, he'll be touring with Rose Tattoo. He is playing in Rose Tattoo at the moment, and they'll be supporting Guns N' Roses on the Australian tour. I don't think they're doing all the dates, but I think they're doing at least all the East Coast dates. So you know what? Like, I could think of worse things to do with your time. So that's a pretty amazing thing to have the opportunity to be a part of. And Joel spends a bit of time sort of reflecting on this upcoming opportunity that he's got, and it's really cool to hear how he got to the point that he is now, his relationship with Angry Anderson and how that all sort of began. Also just his transition from playing in an originals band, Torch Le Monde, and then transitioning into what he's been doing the last several years. And it's just interesting to get another take on it all. A lot of things ring true to me, and sort of going through the crisis of, you know, what's sustainable and you know, doing things for the right reasons and whatnot. And it's a really, really cool chat that I've had with Joel, and somebody that I think you'll agree oozes enthusiasm for music. He is a musician at heart, and he does what he does because he loves it. And I'm sure we can all say that we play music because we love it. But I honestly think this is the main driving force for Joel, just from chatting to him and seeing what he's been doing over the last few years. It's quite inspiring in a way, and it sort of opens my eyes up a bit for things that I could be doing more of in my own life. But anyway, I thought I was just going to cut to the chase. Clearly not. Anyway, so enjoy this episode with Joel. I'll put some notes and whatnot over at andysocial.net, so you can check out the show notes there and links to contact Joel and check out what Joel's been up to and what he's currently up to. And at the end of the episode, I'll give a few extra things, little bits of information of upcoming stuff and places that you can check Joel and his playing out. All right, it's time, finally. Thank you for being so patient. Please enjoy this episode with Joel McDonald. I've known you for a few years, not terribly close or anything like that, but obviously just being both in Sydney and playing in bands and whatnot. Certainly bumped into each other quite a number of times over the years, especially sort of earlier on in the piece when you and your brother were playing. Was it? Well, geez, I should have actually looked that up before I started recording. Was it
Torch Le Monde? Yeah. So that was from 2005 through to like 2010, and I would definitely, I ran into you a few times, and of course like had seen Lord, and yeah, man. So I mean, we were going pretty hard, you know, back then, as much as we could in Australia, and then gave it a couple of sort of red hot goes in America. And man, but like it was awesome. Like it was such a good time. It was hard work though. Like, doing the original thing was so sort of fulfilling creatively. But, every time we'd go overseas and come back, man, it was just like such an expensive endeavor.
I hear you.
It was, and it was one of those things like, each time we went back, the crowds were better and like you could see it build. And we were just loving it, but fuck, like when I had to put my sort of like my goggles into the future on, I'd say, man, like how the fuck am I ever going to be able to, like buy a house or have kids or all of that sort of stuff when, so that was sort of this battle in my mind, especially like being the oldest one in the band. Like I was 23 when we sort of kicked off, and then, kind of when I got to like 27, 28, I don't know, man, it was so good, but like I sort of just needed a break from it,
Bit of a reevaluate your life and where you are.
Yeah.
And I hear you, big time. I think I started going through that what I thought was a midlife crisis, which hopefully not, but about sort of late 20s into the 30s, or at least hitting 30. I sort of went, oh geez, okay. What do I do now? Can I sustain what I've been doing for the last 10 odd years, or do I need to change my tactics? And it's only just now. I mean, I'm only 32, but I'm only just starting now to sort of calm down a little bit and piece things together. But certainly, I think it's hard. I'm sure you're in the same boat because I assume that a lot of your social circles and your mates and whatever are artists. They play in bands and whatnot, and so different people are having different levels of success and whatnot. So you sort of, there's always this friendly competition. You want to sort of you want to do as well or better than your mates as well, and that sort of drives you. And then when you're not doing that and you decide, should I start looking at my finances, or as you said before, like owning a home or whatnot, and then suddenly you feel like in a way that you're getting left behind. And it's oh geez, you got to dig deep in those times. Yeah. And was that the main reason why sort of the band sort of stopped where it was at around that time? Was it a whole range of things?
Yeah, it was just a range of stuff. Like it was just, I think, we'd sort of done it for so long, and then I remember this moment, like we had finished a gig in the Gold Coast, and it was like it was at the end of some run, and man, we were just so tired. And then I remember, like, it was a pretty it was a good gig, but it was a pretty shit turnout. And I was with Simon, the singer, and like all we could think about was getting to the Bottle-O before midnight, before it closed. And I remember it so vividly. Like he and I were there running from this club to try and find the Bottle-O, and there was no one on the street, and we'll just fill in all of our sort of like band gear, like hot and sweaty, just running through the pitch black. And we just sort of both looked at each other just as we're steaming ahead like these retarded gazelles. And he goes to me, man, I just don't think I can do this anymore. And I just started, and I just pissed myself, and said, mate, fuck it, me too, And so there was just one of those weird sort of crystallized sort of defining moments. And I remember when I said that, it was almost like the weight of the world just kind of lifted off my shoulders, because we just both decided then, you know what, man, let's just not put the pressure on ourselves to have to with this band. Like, let's just relax, man. Like, let's just fucking, not have to, all get together on, Monday next week and decide what the fuck our next plan of attack is for the next 6 months and all that stuff. And so from then, like, we sort of just naturally just ended up sort of doing different things. And I remember at that point, like, getting back to the whole finance part of it, like, we'd be doing these original gigs, and then I started getting, sort of like, meeting and socializing just by chance through guys who were in older established bands. Like, I'm in bands from like the 70s and 80s who still sort of kick around today and do corporate shows and stuff. And because they, had their kind of time in the sun, decades ago, they've still been able to kind of leverage off that today. And then I found myself, being asked to come and play these gigs, and do an original gig, and we'd be sort of splitting this kind of like minuscule amount of money, and then they'd say, oh, you'll get this for the gig, and it was, it's like fucking more than what the entire band would make, more than what like Torch would make, like as a whole. So okay, right, okay. So I ended up sort of dabbling in that, but not wanting to get too involved because I was still, hadn't given up on the idea of pushing the original thing. But then it just happened more and more, and I was like, oh man, this is quite easy and sort of quite fun, and like the work has been done. All I need to do is just kind of roll up and play, well-known songs and kind of be, paid quite well for it comparatively. And so that sort of ended up happening to me. And man, like Jordan joined the art, and Simon and Pat went and sort of, Simon like opened his own business, and Pat, went and started getting into the nightclub management scene. And so we all just sort of, but we've always sort of kept in touch, and we got together, and we still actually, funnily enough, like we'd get together and just like book a rehearsal room out every once in a while and just go there and just jam just for fun. Because, I mean, as you know, like if you play, and you play live, it's just quite simply not something that you can turn off.
Yeah.
Like, it's just no way. Like once you're a guy that plays music live, well, for me anyway, man, like I couldn't imagine a life where I'm not playing live.
It's there's a type of adrenaline that comes from it that you just can't get from anything else. It's so unique, and it's hard to describe unless you've actually experienced it yourself. It's there's things that you can compare it to in life, but even those comparisons still fall short. It's just there's a weird rush, and there's a momentum that happens when you're on stage, when you're locked in. Everything's sort of tight, and but at the same time, where that, I mean, you can have, like, for example, you can have like a technical death metal band that's tight and locked in, but when you've got a band that's locked in, but there's also this great groove and feel that's happening where you sort of just, that energy is just flowing between everybody, and then especially if you've got a good crowd in front of you as well, it definitely helps. But I hear you, absolutely. You got to try and get that fix every once in a while.
Oh man, and for me, it's just the whole ritual as well. It's like driving to a gig, like pumping myself up on the way, like the music I'm listening to on the way to a gig, like plugging in, going to a sound check, trying to get a good sound on my guitar, like all of those things, these little rituals that, man, I love that stuff, just as much as the gig. Like if you have a good gig, that's good too, but man, it's the whole package of it.
The whole experience of it.
Like, all of it. Fucking hell, totally.
So I mean, you just said that in a routine. So when you would go, depending on whatever show you're doing, you would have sort of a set. Do you consciously have a set number of things that you would do before leading up to a show, or is it sort of just an automatic thing that just happens? It's just
depends what the gig is, man. Like, sort of depends on. Generally speaking, I'm a bit of a guy that has patterns that I follow, like I don't really like kind of rolling up at the last minute to a gig and just having the whole she'll be right attitude. I like sort of being prepped, and I really like sort of having a sound that I'm comfortable with, and sort of warming up on guitar, and having a few beers and totally just like totally sort of easing into it. It's a full process for me, man. Like I love that, man. Just being ready to just knowing that as soon as I step on stage, I'm going to be putting my best foot forward.
Yeah, and it's hard when you've got. I'm sure that you guys had an element of this earlier in the piece as well, where most bands are DIY, and you're constantly having to worry about a million different things, and there's definitely a luxury, and I'm sure that you've experienced this now playing with some of these older guys that have been around for decades, where you don't have to worry about the setup. You don't have to worry about where the merch is going to be and making sure that things have arrived and whatnot. You've got your job, and you can isolate yourself and make sure that you're completely focused on what the job is at hand, instead of being a jack of all trades and trying to hold a whole range of different hats to make sure that everything's sort of covered and thought of.
Man, that is so bang on the money. Like, it's exactly true. Like when, if you're a guy that, like I play guitar, you play bass, like you go to a gig, if all you have to worry about is just that, I mean, it's just too easy, and you're right, that's how it was. Like that's how it is, when I do sort of sit in with the established funky old dogs, like that, food, booze, accommodation, like, it's the creature comforts that, man, like I just never knew of, like that I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
And it's so good. And then, I'll be looking at roadies like, oh man, you want a hand with this, you want a hand with that? And they're like, no, man, I got no, like I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is sort of just get up there and put the guitar on that's like tuned and all ready to go. And none of the leads are going to fuck up or lose a signal, like all I have to do is do what I do. And man, the peace of mind that you get with that is just like, it's so easy and it's so good, and you can really kind of relax and just enjoy shows, enjoy just performing.
Absolutely, definitely. And it definitely gives you a chance to sort of get to that next level of performance as well, because you're so honed in on what you need to do, and you're giving yourself the opportunity to digest the information in your surroundings, and as you said, like just leading up to before you're about to get on stage, being able to just chill out and zone out in a way with a couple of beers or whatever it might be, just to try and just remove all the distraction and the noise around you. Because the amount of shows that I've done where they're looking at the clock and our set's about to start, and here I am like hanging off a ladder trying to get our banner up on the backdrop, and no one's touching my bass, and I've got to try and turn my bass and everything on and go, oh shit, I hope I'm tuned. Oh, I think I tuned it about half an hour ago. I can't remember. Oh well, let's just dive into it and cross our fingers and hope for the best. And it's just, and there's a romantic element of the whole DIY revolution that sort of happened over the last sort of 10 years and whatnot, and we've always taken great pride in it, and we've made a big effort to even publicize it in a way with people to say, look, we're not on a label, we don't, everything we do ourselves, we put our own money in, we don't crowdfund, we don't do all this sort of stuff, and it's great, and it has its positives, but geez, it makes life difficult for us sometimes as well. I mean, on those rare occasions where we rock up to like a festival or a show where, as you said, there's already road crew there, and there's catering and whatnot, and you look around and you almost feel like crying. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening.
I know.
It's great. Yeah. It's working with some of the older guys, because I know that the moment you're doing shows with Rose Tattoo, but you've also been, I assume you still are is it part of Frankie's house band?
Yeah, Frankie's world famous house band.
Yeah,
and funnily enough, like getting back to what you were just saying about, the sort of like the romantic notion of the DIY.
Yeah.
That gig is very much like that. And ironically, we get so many seriously big international guys that come to that, like onto the Mondays, that a lot of the times I'm not even aware of until after the fact. And they get a kick out of seeing that, out of being a part, like sort of witnessing that. Again, you know what I mean? Because they're part of these sort of huge kind of like cog like sort of bands that just, everything's taken care of. And when they come and they see us do our thing there, they really get a kick out of that. Like I've met a lot of the guys that turn up there and then had messages from them saying, oh, man, you actually played better, or your sound this time was better than last time. And I have not actually known that they've been there previously to see it.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
I mean, that part's really cool. So yeah, man, that gig really for me, that is just the best, because that's kind of my practice pad, and that's where we get to do, like, we have sort of full creative control, and just, man, we just play whatever we want. It's awesome, man. It's basically just a real serious power trio. It's myself, Bobby Poulton on bass, and Dave Ferry on drums.
Yeah.
And it's just like and we have a rotating kind of roster of singers that we get up with every Monday, and it's a killer, man. It's definitely something that we've built up to be something pretty unique.
It's almost like it's almost like a little sanctuary for you guys to sort of escape to, and almost like a rehearsal space. It's a public rehearsal space in a way that you can get your chops up to speed and refine things, and as you said, experiment and work on stuff. But also you've got an audience to play in front of, and it's a live venue, so you still got the atmosphere and the energy and that whole vibe there as well. So it sounds like you've pretty much got the perfect elements all mixed together to create what you have there.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it is. Like, I'll sort of try, I'll try out different sort of things. Like, I'm a sort of a straight ahead kind of a rock player. But sometimes, because we're there every Monday, I want to, like, everything I want out of a gig is I just want to impress myself. I want to have a good gig where I feel like I played well, whether there's, 2 people in the audience or 2,000, it makes no difference to me. Like, it's obviously better if more people. Yeah, but like, for instance, over sort of the Christmas break, I've been getting into guitar players that I used to listen to a lot, kind of growing up, where I was sort of honing my skills, and I was so fascinated with how, I don't know if you know much about like Richie Kotzen, but he's this killer guitar player the solo guy, and then has joined the Winery Dogs in recent years, and in recent years has just decided that he's not going to use a pick anymore. So he is just the most fucking incredible guitar player who now doesn't use a pick, so it's all just like finger picking. So I just thought, man, fuck, I might actually try that for like one song, just to see how I go. And I did it, and so giving myself like little challenges like that it's so good that I can do that there every Monday. And like, I got through it. Like, it wasn't amazing, and certainly nowhere near as good as what it is if I actually use a guitar pick. But I can sort of work on little things like that to challenge myself to basically get better every week, because you have to challenge yourself as a player.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, especially with the evolution of being a musician and trying to be more versatile, and especially doing what you've been doing, where you're sort of coming into other bands to perform with them and perform their songs. You've got to have an element of versatility that's and be able to adapt to a situation fairly quickly. And I mean, obviously, as you said, your background's sort of that straight up rock guitar playing, but if you're able to add little elements of extra stuff here and there, then obviously that opens up your repertoire and opens up more opportunities for you later on down the track. And as you said before, like, if you're playing in a public space, in a bar, and you've got players and all sorts of people coming and going, and people that see you, and it's just it's such an awesome spot, because you're almost up there, and I don't think you're doing this consciously, but it's almost like you're up there to advertise yourself and advertise your playing, and all 3 of you up there just to say, hey, this is what we're doing, and yeah, but this is what we're all about. And I mean, it's amazing. I mean, that's part of the reason why, with original bands more so than others, why you get on stage to play. And I mean, we've had instances where we've played the absolute worst show in the world in front of like 20 people or something like that, but there's just that one drunk who rocked up who just happens to either have a hell of a lot of money and he's bought every bit of merchandise we've got, or he knows somebody who knows somebody else, or he is somebody that can make something happen. And you learn that lesson very quickly, that I mean, you're on stage to perform, and it doesn't matter who's in front of you, because you just never know, and you got to be up there to enjoy yourself as well, and for your own personal gain. So I think you've got all the elements perfectly aligned there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it really is, man. It's just like our shop front, like, we're so conscious of that. Like, I just can't afford to have a bad night. Yeah, that's the way I see it, in my mind, and that's why I'm always kind of trying to pick up new skills. And even back in the day, like, even though, like we sort of said, I'm a rock guitar player, but just to sort of push myself out there a bit, I went, and I remember I did a course at the conservatorium, and that was really, and it was all jazz, right? So no rock. And what was really tricky about that is, I had to sort of audition to get into this course. And everyone, as the only guitarist, by the way, so it was pretty sort of stressful. Like, it was all on me, and everyone there, they all read like sight music. You know, I don't do that. Like, it's just not in my kind of DNA and my soul to be able to look at a piece of paper and play music at the same time. Like, I need to know it and then play it. You know what I mean? Otherwise, like, I might as well just be like reading you a book. You know, like, if I don't know it, then I can't sort of perform it. You know, and so that was really good for basically training my memory. You know, because I had to. It was all in putting together this one big sort of epic, kind of like boring as fuck jazz song. You know, for some big scary, you know, performance that we were going to do. You know. A couple of weeks down the track or whatever, and everyone is there reading it, and I had to, you know, memorize the whole thing. And so that's been really good, because, you know, now, like, when I do gigs, everything I do, I just do it all by memory. And people, a lot of the guys that, you know, I play with, even like the big sort of session guys that I'll do shows with, even if it's just sort of like a cover show or something, I get up there and I play, and everyone's got their iPads and stuff, and they look at me like, man, how do you do this? And I say, mate, how the fuck do you do that? And he's like, look at an iPad while you're playing to an audience, you know? So, yeah, man, that sort of, I think, has set me apart a little bit. Like, it's sort of given me a little bit more value, that I can just kind of actually get up there and do it all from the heart and from memory.
Yeah, and is it something like when you were younger, starting out to play guitar, was guitar your first instrument, or were you playing something else before that?
Man, it was just guitar from the beginning.
Yeah, cool. And was it a case that when you were learning, you just picked it up and started learning by ear?
Yes. Yeah, it was, mate. Like, well, at the very, very beginning, you know, no, I had to sort of, learn how to play really, like, seriously simple stuff when I actually didn't want to learn it. It was just like one of those sort of family decisions, like, you know, you should play an instrument, because, you know, that'll be something cool to do. And it was just the fact that by fluke there was like an acoustic guitar in the family that I said, oh, okay, well, I'll do guitar. And so I did it for a year, you know, when I was 10, and I remember, like, very vividly thinking, I'm going to can this. It's just not doing it for me, because, you know, you have a sort of a teacher that's showing you boring stuff, and, you know, he's not showing you, you know, Enter Sandman or like Under the Bridge, or the stuff that you're really young and you're hearing on the radio you want to do. But then my uncle is a guitar player, and I remember once he was around and he was playing one of his guitars, and he just said, oh, what song do you like at the moment? And I remember saying, oh, you know, like, I really like that song, you know, Under the Bridge by the Chili's, you know, which was a big one at the time. And he just started playing it. And I said, how did you do that? And he said, oh, you know, well, I just know how it sounds, so I played it. And just the fact that someone could think, like, you just say a song to them, a song that you actually really like, and they play, then I thought, whoa, shit, okay, so that sort of sparked my interest back up again. And then just over time, you know, when you're interested in something, you just generally you'll become good at it, because, you know, your mind's focused on it. And I was just lucky, man. I turned out to have a good ear where, you know, I can sort of listen to a song and then I can play it. And that's just the way unless it's really sort of serious kind of tabs that I need for full-on kind of guitar solos or something. That's just the way I just sort of taught myself from then on.
Yeah, I'm very similar to you in the sense that I did some high school guitar lessons, and it went in one ear and out the other, and the guy was a jazz guitarist, and I did dual lessons with another kid who loved jazz guitar, so the two of them really bounced off each other, and I sort of sat there with a Metallica shirt on, just going feeling like a big dummy, and then I could never read sheet music, but I played trumpet when I was younger, so I knew sheet music, but I couldn't grasp the concept of it translating over to guitar. So once I understood the concept of tabs, I was off at the races, and I was completely fine after that. But I do find, and I have found over the years, that I will gravitate towards learning by ear rather than trying to
Totally.
piece out a piece of paper. And as you said, like if it's something that's intricate or it's very sort of or a little bit more technical and you really need to be on the money with the notes and whatnot, then I'll go and start searching and drilling it right down. But nine times out of 10, I'll sit there and, it might take me longer than somebody that's got sheet music in front of them, but I kind of think at times that I've got a better chance of getting the feel right than somebody who's learning it off sheet music.
Totally, man. It's exactly right. And funnily enough, like when it comes to the serious stuff that you need tabs for, like, back in the day, pre-YouTube, where you did have to go and, buy the tab book to something and you kind of slave over, learning some line or whatever. Now, if you can get on YouTube and you can actually see footage or like live footage of back then that person playing the stuff and they're playing it differently. So whoever put the tabs together, it's not 100% accurate. So you kind of like that. That's you bet if you can sort of piece it together in your head, it's always projected. It's just projected better because it's just right. It's right for you. So you'll play it as best you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember being initially heartbroken when I think it was more than likely Metallica because I was obsessed with them as a teenager. But going through some tabs that I'd found and playing them and looking at it and going, it doesn't quite sound right, and I can't quite work out why it doesn't sound right. And then finally, I got a hold of a live video. And I'm like, they're not even on the right point of the neck. They're at the completely wrong spot. And I was heartbroken because I'd spent so much time trying to learn. I'm like, oh man, this sucks. But then eventually, when I was watching it and then understood what they were doing, then I'm like, and then actually seeing the result or hearing the results of me playing and going, now it locks into place. Now it makes sense. And then that feeling was just amazing. And it's weird. I mean, I think you've got a lot more. I think your finger's on the pulse a lot more than I am, at least at this right now, with you playing so much and having a regular gig on Mondays and doing your other stuff as well. But that feeling where you learn a song and you finally get it and the notes lock in and you get it right. I haven't had that feeling in so long. Maybe I need to start learning some new songs. I think I've been playing our existing stuff for way too long. I've just got used to playing the same thing over and over again. But I'm sure with you, because you get a rotation of singers, especially on Monday nights, that your repertoire of songs that you guys should know or need to pick up would be quite extensive. I mean, even just rock songs would be quite a few.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, mate. Especially at the beginning. Like, I remember we sort of had the idea to put this night together because Frankie's was really new and they were sort of like coming up that they wanted certain things for each night. Because Jordan was, he played a part, my brother Jordan, who played a part in sort of putting that whole place together. And he was, a lot of that venue was, his creative vision was put into that. And I just said to him, man, let me put this let me put like a house band together for the Mondays. And I'd spoken about it with Bobby and Dave, or Bobby and Dave had actually spoken to me about it just by complete fluke, I think like 6 months prior. Said, we should get together and we should look to maybe do something. And then that venue came up. And as soon as it came up, we went and had a meeting with the owners and just said, look, this is what we want to do. And they said, all right, cool, man. Well, you can start next week. And we didn't have we had nothing. Like we didn't say we didn't say that we have nothing. We just said, what we want to do is we want to come in here every single Monday with like a different singer each week and just sort of play what this venue is all about, which is like just fucking kick-ass classic rock, They said, okay, yeah, cool, yeah, no worries. So, and we just shook hands on it. And then, I remember me, Bobby and Dave, we just stepped out of the venue and just looked at each other and we just went, oh, fuck, we've got to put this together right now. So we had to learn, we had to quickly sort of get on the phone to all the singers we know. And man, we just worked our ass off because we had to sort of, come in from then on every Monday with 20 songs every week. So mate, we really kind of got together and just absolutely sort of like just ripped right in. And mate, we worked hard. We rehearsed, and it was like that for the first kind of couple of months. And not only that, trying to get singers on board and trying to explain to them, this is what we're going to do, and it's on a Monday. And people are like, well, what do you mean a Monday? Like, yeah, this is this is what we want to build it into this sort of this cult thing where it's just this ripping kind of muso night on a Monday. And are you in? And man, we were just very lucky that people got on board. And as soon as we started playing, and they could see that the audiences were right into it, and we were into it, and we were just right on the money and focused with the kind of the delivery of these songs and just the intensity and the musicianship. It just kind of built from there. But yeah, man, a lot of work, and but it was so good for all of us. So good to just build up all of our kind of like knowledge and just our chops and all of this stuff. It was awesome, man.
It's almost like some accelerated learning, just having to sort of trial by fire, just jump in there, and suddenly you're forced to have to upskill as quickly as you can.
Oh, mate, another example of that was we were contacted actually for getting back to this whole thing about international guys that come and see it that we don't know about. We were contacted by Bruce Kulick from Kiss, right? Because some of his mates that had been in Sydney had happened to just tell him about this venue and these three players that play who are really, really good and all this stuff. And next time you're in Sydney, because he comes to Australia every few years to do shows and conventions and all sorts of stuff for all the Kiss freaks out there. He sent us an email saying, guys, I've seen some clips of what you do, and some of my friends have said you're really great. So, it would be great if we could, maybe we could do a night there, playing the Kiss songs that I was a part of in my career. And we're just like, fucking all right, okay. It was awesome. But that was, we got that email, and then I think like 3 weeks later we were meant to do this show. So, we had to kind of learn a complete kind of note-by-note Kiss concert, basically, that his sort of standard Kiss concert, like Alive 3, the bulk of that, and some of the obscure stuff from the 80s. And there was like pretty kind of minimal contact. He's just sort of said, these will be the songs we do, and I'll see you on the date or whenever it was. And I think I sort of had to contact him once to say, man, just want to confirm, what parts you're doing and I'm doing, and he was really good and said, oh yeah, no, you do this, you do what's in the left ear, which is Paul, and I've seen your clips, so I've got a lot of confidence in you. See you on the night, It's like, oh fuck, all right. So man, we had to really kind of knuckle down and work, hard, because we knew that you'd have Kiss fans there, like sort of real like discriminating Kiss freaks who would just know every time you played a dud note or took put your left foot forward instead of your right, that they would just be furious, So we had to work really hard on that. And then, man, that night, we met him before he came. We met him, I think he rolled up, a couple of hours before the gig, and we just went down the bottom there, and we went over everything kind of note for note. And, one of the coolest things that happened actually was he was playing like a solo line in this song, Tears Are Falling, one of the real sort of like, mate.
Love it.
Yeah, mate, that's one of my favourite Kiss songs, and it's really obscure, which is why I love it.
80s era Kiss is my favourite. Like, I'm just
mate.
So good.
Me too. And anyway, he's doing the solo in Tears Are Falling, and there's a harmony line that's in the recorded version. And anyway, when he's playing this solo, and I'm just sort of playing the rhythms, and then when that line comes in, I jumped on into the harmony, and him and his manager sort of stopped and looked at me and said, "Man, what is that?" I said, "Man, that's the harmony in the recording." And he goes, "Man, I haven't heard it done like that in like 30 years or what." Because Paul never did it. He just chugged through the rhythms.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it was such a cool moment, because he looked at me and those little, he'd give me these little nods, like, man, well done, you know. And then after that, he'd say, you know, because you guys have done your homework, I'm going to tell you this story about, you know, when Paul showed me that song, like when I went round to his apartment in Manhattan and said, oh, you know, I've got this idea for a song, Tears Are Falling, and it's kind of like a doo-wop thing, like and it was fucking so cool because he's telling us these things that like that the freakiest of Kiss fans would just kill to hear, you know.
Yeah.
And then we got up on stage, and I remember we went into that song, and when that thing came, I just fucking jumped on that harmony and just nailed it. It was just it was the coolest moment, you know, to actually like have done something a little bit new to a Kiss thing, you know. Oh man, it was killer. And that whole gig was just so good because, you know, we put in the work, and it was, from my memory, I mean, it was just like kind of a note perfect gig, and he was happy and we were happy, and you know, the ironic part is, you know, I played rhythm through the whole thing, you know, like I'm a sort of like a lead guitarist, and I did no solos, but it was one of the funnest gigs I ever did. That's
cool. That's just it's amazing how things just pan out. Like if you get to like at the end of that show finishes, and then you sort of stop and go, 6 months ago, if someone told me that I'd be standing here right now just finishing a show playing 80s Kiss tracks with Bruce Kulick, like I wouldn't believe you whatsoever. It's just,
that's right.
It's crazy how things pan out, and it can just be a split second thing that can change everything. It's just I love those stories. It's so cool. Have you had many other people that have dropped in at all to get on stage, or is it more of a case that just people rock up to have a drink and watch you guys play?
Well, man, we've had heaps of people, man. We've had like Marco Mendoza, you know, who's from Whitesnake, Thin Lizzy, John Tempesta, who's like from the Cult, White Zombie, Testament, Tommy Clefitos, who's with, you know, Ozzy, Alice Cooper, Brian Nutter, who's from Keith Urban, Richard Fortus, of course, from Gunners and Thin Lizzy, Scott Coogan, who was with like Brides of Destruction, and Ace Frehley, Dizzy Reed.
Yeah, wow.
Like that, we did we did a Gunners, a Thin Lizzy night once, and funnily enough, you know, Dizzy, Marco, and Richard Fortus. You know, Marco and Richard Fortus at the time were actually in Thin Lizzy, and they got up and finished the show with us. Got up and, like, you know, so stuff like that. And yeah, man, there's been, off the top of my head, you sort of put me on the spot a bit, but yeah, there've been heaps of just kind of roll up, and they, you know, they're cool, man. A lot of the time they just want to have a drink and kind of just relax and kind of watch someone else do the work. But other times, you know, like a lot of these guys, you know, it's in their blood, and when they see a band play and they're like, oh, fuck yeah, I'll get up and play too. And they do.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
You've almost got a reputation there now for Monday nights at Frankie's. As you said before, when you're talking about trying to recruit singers and trying to explain to them what the concept is, and having to perform on a Monday night, which in most places in the world is pretty foreign, but especially in Sydney of all places. But I mean, when I spoke to Jordan last year, on this podcast thing, and sort of spoke about all things Frankie's, and he was talking about sort of the approach of trying to have something on every night of the week, and it's just amazing that I mean the biggest thing is consistency, and I think that the fact that you guys as a house band, you've come up with a concept, and you guys are consistent. You're always there, and you're working on it, and you take it seriously. And I think sometimes it can be as simple as that. And sometimes as hard as that as well, because it's hard to stay consistent, but it's a simple concept, and usually sometimes that's enough to find some success. And obviously, I mean, I've heard heaps of people rave on about Monday nights down at Frankie's and going down there and whatnot. So you guys are definitely doing good things, especially if you're getting some good names dropping by to say hello.
Yeah, well, that is so true with the whole. Just the simple concept of just, mate, we just have to keep delivering it every Monday. And it's not about, you know, having kind of all the bells and whistles with your social media and all of that, having, you know, look at my legendary YouTube clip. It's just like, it's simple. You know, we just got to get up there every Monday and just fucking kill it, you know. And that's all that, man, that's what we're good at. And that's the only thing that we sort of care about. Like no one else is, we just sort of, that's the only thing that's sort of important. And I think that's you're right. Like that, it is very hard, but that is why it's worked. I think just the consistency, just doing what we do well, and just focusing just on that.
Absolutely. And as you said, you bang on with the whole bells and whistles thing. I think sometimes people put so much effort into hyping something up.
Oh, yeah.
And you hype up expectations, and then if you do manage to convince someone to get off the couch and come out for something, and then it doesn't meet those expectations, then you'll never get them back out again. And I think if you just go in there from a sort of like almost like an organic point of view, where you just get up there and you're genuine, you guys are there, you mean business, you're serious about what you do, you take it seriously, but you're having fun, you love it, then you might have the first night you might only have a handful of people there, but if they can feed off what you guys are doing, then it only takes a small amount of time for word to get out there. And that's usually the best way to make something successful and get a buzz, is just people talking. And you don't need to worry about your social media and all that sort of stuff if your music and your performance does the talking.
Yeah, it's always been pretty much a word of mouth thing, I think.
Yeah.
Just with that, it's just been really kind of basic, just word of mouth. That's the way we've done it.
Yeah, it's a great approach, and I think sometimes, especially when you've got the internet and all these different resources that people use these days to market things, I think people overcomplicate things now. They think that things are far more complex than they need to be, and usually it's a very old school method. There's the same rules that have worked 40 years ago that work today. It's the same stuff when it all boils down to it. There's fancy ways of doing things, and sometimes it can work and do great, but when it all boils down to it, it's the same fundamentals that end up with good results. So yeah, definitely have the right approach. With the whole rose tattoo thing, I did see a while back, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, you did some playing with, there was some sort of all-star band that you were doing shows with?
Oh, well,
for a while there. It might have been a short stint where you were playing with a number of other guys from different bands, just doing shows around the place?
Yeah, well, look, I do I do quite a few shows with some of the guys from Mondo Rock, like Ross Wilson, obviously the singer from Mondo Rock, Paul Christie, even like Choir Boys, Mark Gable, and those guys. With I've actually played with Angry for years, just in private contexts, like he still works quite a bit. I just did heaps of kind of private corporate shows with him, but this one, Rose Tattoo is sort of a funny thing because it's really just him, like there's he's the only, original member, a true original member of Rose Tattoo. So it's not really a big thing that I'm sort of doing this with Angry. It's a big thing that I'm obviously doing these shows supporting Gunners, of course, but when I found out, Angry he's always supported Guns, I think, dating back to like 93. And so, the only difference this time is that, I'm sort of, I'm just playing under that, with that name. Gunners love Angry, they love, Rose Tattoo. And so, of course, when I heard that they were coming, I thought, oh man, we could end up, I could end up supporting these guys. And sure enough, Angry just contacted me and said, man, are you keen for these dates? I was like, yes, I am.
Let me get back to you on that one.
Actually, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll just go watch a repeat of Seinfeld and then I'll call you back. but yeah, man, it was, so yeah, that's it's I've done heaps of shows with him, and the show itself is kind of nothing new, but definitely the context this time is massive, man. It will be the biggest, certainly size wise, it'll be the biggest show I've ever played.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even fathom playing in front of a crowd like that. That's just going to be absolutely insane. When I saw you mention it online, and I thought, oh, geez, like that's something that a 12, 13-year-old kid just like stands in his room in front of a mirror with a guitar, just going, one day it'll happen, I swear. So yeah,
Totally. I mean, for me, like, and Axel. I mean, love him or hate him, and I know everyone has divided opinions. I mean, for me, he is just a whole other league of singer/frontman. I mean, he's just, man, just the intensity, just the lunacy, the vocals, just the fact that he's this enigma wrapped in a fucking mystery, wrapped in a riddle,
Yeah.
and then the fact that I'll just sort of be in that vicinity and I'll be able to see him, do what he does up close and just be a part of that whole night, or the nights that we're doing, and the music, man. Like, I mean, Gunners were dead set my all-time favorite band growing up. Like, just my favorite. Like, no one came close, especially, when I was young. So it'll be one of those kind of weird moments where I don't know whether it's going to hit me, at the time or after, and there's been moments where I've sort of sat down and I've just thought, fuck, I'm going to do that. Like, I'm going to, look out, and there'll be, I mean, it's 90,000 people that'll be there for Guns, but, half that or whatever will be there, when we go on, and that'll be pretty kind of nerve-wracking as well, looking out to that many people, and then, I get to finish doing my thing, and then it's just all glory from there because the job is over and I get to just watch the Guns,
I think that moment will be, I mean, at least from my point of view, I think that would probably be your moment where you sort of take it in, because when you're on stage, I'm sure you're the same as me, not that you're in autopilot, but you just, everything flashes before you, and before you know it, it's done. And you sort of go, especially those high energy shows where there's so much happening around you, and you sort of go, what just happened? Like, it felt good. It was great. I had a great time, but what just happened?
Yes, that's exactly how you do kind of go a bit numb. You just get out there and you're just like, and you do your thing, and you can't sort of stop and smell the roses when it's happening. But yeah. I think maybe with this one, because, like, funnily enough, with it being the biggest gig, but technically it's like a really sort of an easy gig for me. I'm just playing like just straight ahead, just kind of like right hand chugging rhythms. I think I will be able to enjoy it. There's not much pressure on me in terms of like what I've got to pull off live. I've just got to go out there and just kind of have fun and just fire up, and I think because there's not that much expected of me technically, I'll probably be able to enjoy it and just relax a bit, Yeah. Hopefully, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that'll definitely play into it. And I think, I mean, I've never played in front of a crowd that big, but playing in front of larger crowds, I always thought it'd be much harder than playing smaller shows, but until I started doing it, I found that playing the larger crowds was so much easier than playing like a pub show or a club show, because you can just look out across the top of their heads and just sort of look down the back of the venue or whatever it is, and then you can glance over at people every once in a while, but more or less you're just seeing a mass of people and that's it. But I've played shows, and I'm sure you've done the same, where in some places in pubs, there's not even a stage. You're on the carpet and you're pretty much eye level with people. They're standing right in your face and you're singing and you're looking at them and they're looking at you. And it's just like, you never felt so vulnerable in your life. You're sort of like, I'm just showing myself as I am now. I'm performing and playing, and you're there right in my face, and probably tipping a beer all over a guitar pedal or whatever. But it's such an intimidating moment, and I mean, both very cool in their own rights and their own respective ways. But sometimes those bigger crowds, I mean, mind you, I've never played in front of 10,000 plus people, but I'm sure that's a different thing altogether. But I'm sure with a mass of people, it'd be hard to sort of start focusing on individuals.
Yeah, I think that's how it's going to go, man. And yeah, man, I mean, the small shows are a bit, they can be really intimidating. Like, imagine being a singer. I mean, there's one thing being a like a guitar, like you and I, you know, we've got this kind of barrier, which is our guitar, like holding it in us. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, this is what it is, the guitar. But like, if you're a singer, like imagine that, like that's full, like heart on the sleeve, like you're singing to someone. That to me, like, I gotta seriously give it to the singers who do that.
I think it definitely takes a certain personality type to put up your hand and go, you know what, I'll sing. I'll get up the front and I'll put myself on the line. And I think it's a certain personality that can pull it off. And for some it's easier than others. But to be able to have, especially, I mean, using Angry as an example, who's been doing it for decades. I mean, I'm sure that he probably still gets a little bit of butterflies before he gets on stage, or a little bit sort of on edge and whatnot. But when he's out there, I mean, he would no doubt be like, it'd be his playground, and he'd be able to stand out there with that degree of confidence that he can just stand there and he's almost controlling the show.
Yep.
Yeah, and he has that sort of feeling of power there, and I think that would be such an amazing feeling to be sort of that front man, to sort of just you're leading the pack in a way. It's just it's so cool.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's all or nothing. Like, you know, when he gets up there, even, you know, I've done some gigs with him where, you know, someone's played the wrong thing or whatever, or gone back into a verse too early instead of doing the chorus for twice as long. I always kind of look out of the corner of my eye at the singers to see how they handle those moments, because they're the kind of the ones who are up there like, oh fuck, you know, like holding a note that's meant to have gone in, you know, it's meant to go into a new part, but they just, you know, he just like perseveres. And man, he's been doing it for so long, and you're right, like he is large and in charge when he gets on stage, you know, and he just fucking does it, and he doesn't care, you know, he just goes hard, and we just all have to go hard with him pretty much.
Absolutely. And I mean, you mentioned that you've been playing with him for quite a number of years now, so you've got a good relationship with him, and obviously it's working because you're still playing together.
Yeah.
What sort of things? I mean, for a guy that's been in the industry for so many years, he's got legendary status all over him. As you said, like the Gunners guys hold this guy up in high regard. He's a cult hero internationally, and even back home, he's a local hero. What sort of things have you learnt from him over the years of playing with him? Like, what sort of things have you been able to pull out from him that you wouldn't have normally been exposed to beforehand?
Oh man, like he was a bit surprising, you know, like he really appreciates different types of music. Like he, you know, when I do the sort of a thing that I do, which is more sort of like colourful, expressive kind of technical playing, you know, he really loves that too. He's not just like the meat and potatoes rock dog. I mean, that's obviously what you get when he does a Rose Tattoo show. But just the fact that, you know, he appreciates you doing what you're good at, even if it's not what you would think he would like. You know what I mean?
Yep. So almost like a real appreciator of just musicianship, of people that can play.
Yeah, and just it doesn't have to be rock. Like it can be sort of like just bluesy stuff. Like every time we play together, like a lot of the stuff is like old 60s blues, and even like, oh man, I've done like some Rod, like it will sound insane saying this, but like old Rod Stewart stuff, like stuff you wouldn't think that he's into it, but man, he loves that stuff. And so, you know, he got a kick out of seeing that I could kind of do that stuff too, you know. So
has he sort of encouraged, or maybe not directly encourage you, but I guess you've sort of been able to feed off that to sort of encourage you to play and be more versatile and be a better player?
Yeah, definitely, totally. It's like, you know, do what you're good at and just do what you can to move people. You know, don't do kind of, you know, what you think you're expected to do. Just like, that was sort of a bit surprising. I mean, you know, there's been a few kind of he's pulled me up on a few little housekeeping issues. Like, I remember I did a gig with him and he said, "Mate, you know, why are you wearing a watch?" I said, you know, it's just in case I actually need to tell the time. That's what a watch is for. He goes, "Mate, that is so not fucking rock and roll, needing to know what the time is." So little things like that, you know. And he goes, and when we got on stage, no phones in your pockets. So just
Gotcha.
little things like that. I'm like, oh shit, okay, I guess that's not a cool look. So yeah, those little sort of, he's pretty old school like that. There's a few little like faux pas that he pulled me up on, but no man, just
But you know what? Those things separate. That's what separates the masters from the amateurs. And it's like, it might seem so trivial, but those things all add up. I mean, a whole sum of small things all add up. And it's funny because a lot of bands will not think of that degree of detail. They won't, I wouldn't even raise that with my band member, or we wouldn't even discuss it because it's just so trivial, and it's, we've got other things to focus about. But it's just demonstrating how serious you take it, and how serious you take, not just the performance of the playing and whatnot, but the aesthetics. Like, you're on stage, you're meant to be visual as well as audible. And it's all as serious as each other. So it's that's really cool to hear. Like just tiny things that actually really do count.
Yeah, it all adds up, man. Imagine going to play like Master of Puppets, and it's not all downstrokes. Like, how many people would get up there and they'd play that riff like, up and down, like alternate fucking, or just little things like that. There's, if you want to sort of put forward the proper picture, then certain things have to be done a certain way,
Absolutely. It's especially if you've got to a point where you've become proficient enough to a degree that you can get away with something, and then that's when you sort of need to start looking at refining, and or even using the analogy of the sheet music thing. You can know the song, but you don't know the feel. And it might seem very tiny in comparison to, I'm playing the right notes. Like, yeah, well, you are, but you're not playing it with the right feel and the right tone. So, and that's what separates you to somebody else. So yeah, it's cool to hear things like that. Absolutely. How did you sort of briefly touched on it before, but how did you hook up with Angry?
I hooked up with Angry through Paul Christie, who is the bass player from Mondo Rock.
Yep.
And I'd become friends with him, and I remember, and the first gig I ever had the first time I ever met Angry was when I was playing with him. Like, I didn't meet him. The first time we sort of, connected was actually on stage physically playing. So, so there was a gig down in Albion Park, and we, had this set list of songs, and we're going to do, X amount of Rose Tattoo songs and all the, some Mondo Rock ones and some other old covers and stuff for some charity thing. I think it was, from memory. Anyway, so we started playing. The first half of the set was, I think, I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't until halfway through when Angry was going to get up and then start singing. So anyway, the first time I saw him was as, him getting on stage, and then all of a sudden we're playing together. And, I could tell he was sort of getting a good vibe, because he was really sort of getting into what I was doing on stage. And then he left, and then we kept playing, and I never, so we physically didn't actually meet, And then, funnily enough, I was at work, like on the Monday, and he calls me up and he goes, "Hey Josh, I just wanted to thank you for, the other night." I was like, "Oh yeah, thanks mate." So I must have made a bit of an impression. He got my name wrong, but ever since then, and then it just went from there. There was just more sort of private corporate gigs and stuff that were coming up, and I'd just play with him more and more, and yeah, man, it just sort of an organic type thing. I mean, I think also, like, I never kind of kissed his ass, you know what I mean? Like, it was never this thing where I sort of like would go and shake his hand and say, "Oh man, it's such an honor to, oh yeah, I did," and do all that thing. I mean, that's sort of not really my way anyway.
Yeah.
I just sort of think, at the end of the day, like, no matter who's done what, we're all just musos, just doing our thing, and what I need to do is just fucking play well, and that's it. And then the rest kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah.
And so he I think he got that vibe that, you know, I wasn't out to kiss anyone's ass. I just wanted to do a good job, you know, and so he kind of warmed to that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he definitely comes across as somebody it's no bullshit. Just get on with it and do the show and whatnot, and doesn't want to have the distractions of having to deal with personalities that are worrying about everything else but the job at hand. So yeah, that definitely makes sense. One thing that I'm always fascinated about, and I'm always talking to either mates or other people that are musicians, especially ones that have been able to hook up with guys that have already found success, you know, people that have been in the industry for decades and whatnot, and whether they've been join bands or do session work and whatnot. And one thing that I do find I know a lot of younger guys who are only just starting to play and starting to get into bands now, the whole concept of this networking side of things and building relationships and rapport with people just seems to get a little bit lost these days with Facebook and whatnot. I mean, everyone just seems that if you shoot a message through to somebody randomly, or you like a page or whatever it might be, that's enough to build rapport with somebody. And I'm curious as to, even with, you know, Mondo Rock guys and just all those earlier connections that sort of led to you where you are now, was it a case that you're just in the same place, same time, and it was just mutual friends, and it was just a gradual build over time where you just kept going out of your way, or just not going out of your way, I should say, but just being in a situation where you just struck up conversations with people which have then led to opportunities?
Mate, it's all just been organic. To be honest, I've never tried. I've never tried. Like, I've never done the whole Facebook thing where I send messages and, oh man, it was so fantastic to meet you last night. No, you know, I loved that time when you did this. No, I just find that shit so phony. I can't handle it. And I think, ironically, well, the thing is, the guys that have achieved things, they can sniff that shit a mile away. You know what I mean?
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, when I first met, one of the guys, that kind of got me into all of this was Randall Waller, right? He was Shania Twain's guitarist. He's played for heaps of people, you know, Keith Urban. And I met, like, I was doing a gig somewhere in the Cross for something totally unrelated, and yeah, he just came up to me and he said, "Man, I could tell, you know, with the way you were playing there, that was fucking awesome." I can't actually remember what it was, and I didn't know who he was, you know, but it was just sort of chatted with him for a bit, and then he contacted me, you know, saying, "Oh man, you know, we should get together and, you know, whatever," and you know, I didn't then try to then say, "Oh yes, well, we will do that on Wednesday," and blah 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 blah. Like, somehow our paths crossed again, you know, and that's the way it's sort of been with everyone. And then, you know, he knows someone who knows someone who knows someone. Before you know it, you know, Sydney is a small place, you know what I mean? Like, the world can become really small really quick, you know, once you know people. But I've just never tried, because, you know, I don't really, even with, you know, people on Facebook, you know, look at this solo I did in my bedroom, or look at me fucking sound checking here, or look at this, look at that. Man, I find that shit so nauseating, you know what I mean? And a lot of the time, you know, when you see what they do, you know, on the edge of their bed doing some legendary solo, when they get up and sort of play live, it's never the same, you know. So yeah, I don't know, man. I'm pretty old school that way. Like, a lot of people think that I'm an idiot because I don't kind of go hard enough on social media, you know. But I just sort of don't have it in me to pump it that hard and kiss ass. I just think, man, if you do what you do, you know, and you do it well, then the rest, you know, even if it takes a while, it kind of falls into place.
It does. And I mean, some people would be right in the sense that, yeah, if you started doing videos and started promoting yourself online, and you had some sort of YouTube thing set up, and you're promoting yourself as a guitar player and whatnot, yeah, you could actually probably accelerate your profile and find other opportunities and whatnot. But if that's not you, then you don't do it, because it's not gonna benefit you personally whatsoever. And from what you've been saying, you've got it pretty good at the moment, and you're pretty satisfied with what you've got and the opportunities that you have, and obviously always hungry for more. But you've got a formula that works for you. You've got an approach that works right. And geez, I mean, there's always a million ways to do the same thing, and you found your way, and it works. And yeah, just keep doing what you do. And it's everyone's got their own thing, and there's the bedroom guitarists out there, and they've got their thing, and sometimes some of them are better than others, and some of them are pretty woeful. But I guess it comes down to what people are into and what they're capable of. And I mean, you've got it worked out, and it's working for you. So more power to you, man.
Thanks, mate. So far, so good.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. The whole networking thing, and as you said, it wasn't a conscious thing that you were trying to do. It was just sort of a case that you were just doing your own thing. People were coming up to you and speaking to you, and then you're a good dude. So obviously that rubs off on people in the sense that they can see someone that's genuine and not sort of fake or looking for an alternative agenda there that's trying to take advantage of people. You love what you do, and I think that's probably the biggest thing out of it all, is that I think if people can see that you love what you do and you're genuine, people will want to be around you, like gravitate towards you, because they want to feed off that sort of energy.
They do. Totally, man. And like, if I'm sort of like the new guy being popped into, an old scenario, it breathes this new inspiration and life into that situation, They love seeing that I love it. And man, fucking everyone wins.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's, I mean, I haven't been in that. Oh, no, I haven't. I'm trying to think if I've been in a situation where I've sort of been in a band setting with predominantly older guys. I mean, I've got a couple of guys that are older than me, but not to the extent that's people that have got a legacy that, like such as Angry and some of the other guys that you've been playing with. So definitely be able to go in there with some fresh blood and perspective, but also having that drive and enthusiasm can be a breath of fresh air. But I mean, it's sort of like, you play on stage, you got a good crowd, you play, you feed off the energy of the crowd, that crowd feeds off the energy of you performing, and it's sort of this transaction that goes backwards and forwards. And I assume it's the same in an environment like that, where you're playing with guys that have been there, done that. They've gone around the traps a million times over the decades, and then when they get to play with someone new who might be younger and has the drive and the enthusiasm and whatnot, then it's that energy again. That's when that sort of starts feeding backwards and forwards. You're feeding off their energy because they're starting to peak again, and they're pricking up and going, oh, this is great. And obviously they're feeding off you. So that's, it'd be a cool environment to be in.
Yeah, it's great, man. And you're right. That's exactly how it is. Like, it doesn't change just for, guys if they sort of get older, that they still love that stuff. And all it takes is one little sort of moment for them to just totally fire up again. And man, like driving, back from gigs, and they're still just the most sort of crude teenage dogs, the stuff that they talk about, the stuff that they laugh about. Like, I mean, men never really change, and as you get older, like all of the fucked up stuff gets funnier, because you're not allowed to think it's funny when you get older.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. and I assume like those little moments where the sparks fly again would be very similar to what you said before with that harmony and Tears Are Falling as well with Bruce. Oh. Just something that sort of just suddenly takes them by surprise, and suddenly there's that. Yeah, absolutely, so cool. Like, I'm very envious of those moments, and I think it's cool that you're able to. That you're enough in the moment at the time to be able to really take it in and be aware of what's happening, so that you're able to recall it as well. Because some people would just brush over that and go, oh yeah, that was cool, whatever. But I think you seem to be someone that's really aware of what's going on and being able to take things. Be grateful for the moments that you're in and the experiences that you have.
Oh man, and the ones that stand out are always those types of ones. Like, another one was when we did that Lizzie night, and Marco and Richard and that sort of turned up, and and we were just discussing backstage. I was trying to convince him, oh man, can you want to do, what song can we do? There's this really obscure song by Thin Lizzy called Chinatown. It's not one of their, Anyway, so I was running that, like we were just running the vocals. I was just sort of just strumming along, not plugged in, just backstage, and me and Marco just singing that song in its entirety. And it was fucking so cool. Like I could sort of see people out in the periphery just sort of watching it, just seeing how fucking cool it was. Us just singing that song and getting ready. And then we got up on stage and killed it. And, we'd never, like he hadn't done that for, I don't know, like however many, for years, He sung the whole, he took on the role of Phil Lynott because he is such a fan of Phil Lynott, So, and I'm a fan of what Marco has done. So it was kind of like we were in the same situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that was all. But that was really fucking cool doing that.
That's the stuff that's the whole point of you playing, isn't it? To have those moments.
Oh, it's all about those moments.
That's so cool. That's so cool. All right, I'm keeping an eye on the time, but one last thing I was going to ask before we wrap it up. Obviously, there's the Gunners dates that are coming up. They're huge, but and you've obviously got the regular thing with Frankie's. What else? What have you got on the plate for 2017? Have you got any sort of big plans, or is it sort of just we'll take it as it comes?
Yeah, there is one thing which it's just not sort of. It'll be a similar type scenario to when we got guys that were part of, like when we did the Lizzy show. We had guys that were in Lizzy who ended up doing, playing with us. I've got another thing where I can't really, it's sort of like that.
Gotcha. Still hush at the moment.
Still kind of hush, but it if we pull it off, it'll be unreal, and it will involve, like Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
So we've always been looking at doing like a kind of a Dio themed night where you're doing, his Sabbath, Dio, Rainbow stuff. And one of the guys that was actually part of that may end up being part of that. So that's kind of all I can say at the moment, because it may not happen, but we're always kind of, and there's been other things like that which we've come really close to pulling off, which just for certain kind of, reasons just haven't worked. But apart from that, if we can do that, then it'll be, the Gunners thing, and they're going to try and get some more dates with Gunners that might end up happening. Like, the supports for the European and the South American stuff haven't been announced. So I know it'd be cool if we could jump on that. But really, man, it's just, and then I've just, outside that, there's just more kind of just corporate work that I do, just more gigs. There's probably a couple that I do each month outside of just my regular gig at Frankie's.
That's cool. Just playing. That's
just playing.
Not a bad career path, mate. Really cool. Well, keep me in the loop with what's happening, and I'll tell you what, if you nab a South American supports slot with Gunners, I think I don't think you'll be able to top that for the rest of your life. I think that'll be just sort of, I don't think you can go any higher than that. That'll just be ridiculous.
That would be so insane. I just hope I would come home alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, cool, man. Well, look, keep us in the loop, and I'll be we should do a part 2 post Gunners, and when you know a little bit more about what your plans are for the year, and we'll see how everything's going.
Yeah, for sure, man. Awesome,
man. All right, we'll take care. We'll speak soon.
All right,
cheers, catch you, mate. See ya. Thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that episode with Joel. Now, as Joel mentioned, you can catch him and his world-famous Frankie's Pizza house band. I completely butchered the name of the band there, at Frankie's Pizza by the Slice, which is in Sydney's CBD. If you want to know a little bit more about Frankie's Pizza by the Slice, it is probably the rock venue. Well, it is the rock venue in Sydney, but could definitely be competing for the rock venue in Australia. I think Cherry Bar down in Melbourne will definitely rival them in certain aspects. But not bad company to be a part of. If you want to know more about Frankie's, you can listen to the earlier episode, roughly 31, 32 or 33 of the Antisocial podcast with Joel's brother Jordan, who runs a lot of the show at Frankie's Pizza. But go there on Monday nights. Joel's house band will be there playing a lot of classic rock hits, and obviously a rotation of singers, and from what Joel says, a lot of interesting people rock up there. So it might even pay to I don't know, maybe have Tuesdays off and go in on a Monday night and have a big Monday night. But hey, you don't always have to go there and have a big night. Just go there and enjoy the music. That's me being responsible. That would never happen. Anyway, go and check him out there at Frankie's on Monday nights. Rose Tattoo is touring with Guns N' Roses, upcoming shows. You can find that online. I'm not even going to bother trying to find the dates because it's pretty much plastered anywhere. I think you'd have to be a bit of a dummy to not know where those shows are. Just type it into Google. You'll be fine. And yeah, all the links and contact details for Joel and seeing what he's up to will be on the show notes at andysocial.net. Or if you're on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, you can follow me on all those platforms. You can search for my name, Andy Dowling, or the Antisocial Podcast, and you'll find me very quickly. And no doubt I'll be posting a whole number of things about what Joel's up to and all my guests on those pages, so you can check me out there. Last but not least, before we wrap things up, if you want to help out this podcast, you can vote for me for the Australian Podcast Awards that are run by the Castaway Awards group. I guess they are a group, or is it just one guy? Either way, Castaway Awards are running the Australian Podcast Awards, and the Antisocial Podcast is in the running for a most popular vote. What you can do is if you go to castawayawards.com.au, you can go to the, I think it's like a most popular vote section, and you can vote for the podcast there. I believe you can vote for as many podcasts as you like. There are some very cool ones there, including friends of mine from Pod Kembla and Scruins & Co. Breakfast Show. So give them a couple of votes as well. Heaps and heaps of Australian podcasts on there, so many that I wasn't even aware of. It's certainly an exciting time to be a part of that whole podcast medium in this country. So definitely check out some of the other ones and show your support to them, as well as this one if you feel necessary. I won't go into too much more. I'll leave the rest. You guys know the best ways to support it, you know, the social media stuff and Amazon and all that blah, blah, blah. I'll leave it at that. Enough of that. I'm tired. I've had enough. Great chat with Joel, and plenty more to come. Thank you so much for listening. If this is the first episode of the Antisocial Podcast, I hope you enjoyed it. Go back and listen to some old ones. Plenty of new ones coming up, and I'll have another one next week for you guys. Take care. Peace.